Hey everybody, Jerrod Sessler here. I am putting this quick little video together for the BCRP folks, and we'll share that out with you either on text or on email. Last night we had the big endorsement meeting. It was part of the monthly Central Committee meeting, and first of all, I just want to thank everyone for your efforts and for being a part of what we're trying to do here. We're trying to do our part, do the most and the best that we can to save our country and to preserve our freedoms and to stand for traditional American values that I think we all believe in. But it's not, the political space is not for the faint of heart. And I just want to encourage you with that, because I know that there can be a lot of eye rolling and just, the maneuvering and all the different things that happen in this space. You just think about this, why was Robert's Rules even created or written? Why do we have bylaws and all this kind of thing? And I'll go back to, when I used to race cars, there was a NASCAR rule book, and it was a thick rule book. And the reason is because almost every one of those rules were tied to something that had been done, and some way that somebody found a way to sort of legally skirt the rules, or maybe something that wasn't a rule, but then it became a rule because it was considered, unfair or something like that. So that's the reason why we have, Robert's Rules, and it's intended for us to have a sort of a human process, a way for people to just be able to communicate without just yelling at each other and getting upset because they don't get their way. That having the rules is what gives us the ability to be able to have a cordial meeting when we disagree. And that's kind of my point, is politics is about conflict. And many of us abhor conflict. We run from it, some people. And I know that there's some of you who are involved in this that feel that way. I don't particularly like conflict, but I see conflict as a pathway to unity and to progress. And so I don't have a problem with it. If somebody wants to disagree with me, I'm all ears. I want to have that conversation, and sometimes I learn something, often, and so I appreciate that. So my point is, don't give up, don't give in, don't quit coming, recruit others, and there's a training video that I did that can be used by county parties, where I kind of talk about that, and I encourage people, like, thank you for being here, thank you for putting yourself in this position. Thank you for being involved at all, for running into the conflict as we are, and so I very much appreciate that. I have a short message. I was under the impression that I was going to get to speak last night for 5 minutes, but I didn't, and that's okay. I'm not complaining. I had a couple things I wanted to say, and I think it's still appropriate to say it now, and by virtue of being able to do it on video, I can get it out to everyone who's involved with the BCRP. So let me just start with a little bit of some follow-up from some things that went on last night or were mentioned in terms of announcements. So I think it's sort of the business side of this, and then I want to talk to you just as family. So first of all, there was some discussion last night about redistricting, and I think Patty Hubbard got up and was talking about the legislative district redistricting. Now, my understanding with that, this is a big deal, because the 15th district is the one that has the pin or the spike in it, or the stake in it, but it's affecting a bunch of other legislative districts. And my perspective on what they've done is they took a map, they took all the districts, and they found the home address for the Republican representatives that were in possibly all the districts across the state. And they purposely created maps that caused those representatives to be basically booted out of their districts. I don't know if that's a form of gerrymandering or not. I think it's probably worse than gerrymandering. But if they're successful at this, they'll basically unseat a bunch of representatives, and it doesn't mean that we won't be able to win those seats back with another Republican representative. It just won't be the one that was in it, and it creates all this turmoil and creates an opportunity for us to lose the seat for our party. And we're already down, ridiculous number of seats. potentially is close to the worst I think it's ever been in this state, and so we're in bad shape there. So that's not good. So we need to really pay attention to that, and at this point I'm not sure what we can do, but I will just go back to saying thank you for being involved. As the pain increases, more people are going to stand up and want to get involved. That's the primary reason why I've been so interested in training the last couple of years, is because we need to know what's going on. We need to understand civics. We need to understand the processes and procedures and be able to lean on each other and trust each other, because we've got a fight ahead of us. This is not something that's going to go away in the next couple of years. This is probably a minimum of 15 years, maybe longer. And for me, by the time this is over, I'm going to be in my 70s. So I'm not saying I'm going to be serving in if I win the seat in Congress or something. I have no interest in staying there that long, but I'm saying that we've got a fight ahead of us for probably a couple decades just to hopefully get our country back to some sense of normality again, because we can win elections on the national level and we can win elections on the local level, but it doesn't mean that our opposition and what is now hard opposition is going to go away. They're still there, so we have to be prepared for that, and we have to be in this for the long run. So one of the other things that was brought up last night was the Lincoln Day dinner, which I'm very proud of the work that across all the counties. I go to a lot of Lincoln Day dinners and very, very much appreciate all the volunteers and everything. And I thought we had a great Lincoln Day dinner in October. It was a lot of fun and great speakers and amazing food, Back 40 barbecue. But this one, we've got Julie Barrett coming, and the gals did a good job of introducing her last night, but I just want to add, put an absolute abrupt point on the idea of getting Julie to come. This is a big win. Julie has got stories, one particular story about losing her daughter to the state for several days into a shelter without even being able to have the authority and ability to get her daughter out of there. And many people give Julie a tough time because they moved and bought a place in Florida. She travels back and forth to Washington. They still have a place here, I believe. But they obviously live in Florida now. She did that primarily to save her daughter's life. And her story is compelling. I literally teared up when she first told me this and when I first heard it. So I will say that I love Carol Swain. She's great, and it was a huge bonus and blessing for Paul to bird dog that and get her for the last Lincoln Day dinner. But I'm just saying we have a local story that is incredibly compelling in Julie Barrett, and that is something we can sell tickets on, and that's what we need. The party needs money. We need to put some money in the coffers, and the sooner we can do that, the better. And so I'm excited about that. Yesterday, was it yesterday? Yeah, it was yesterday. The House passed H.R. 7024, which was propped up as essentially a, I don't remember what the name of it is. I don't want to blow it up, but it was totally misleading. It was basically a child tax credit. It was kind of a balance with the Democrat Party. The Democrats wanted to increase the socialist gifts, essentially, is what it turns out to be, through taxation, through refunds and things like that. And the Republicans involved in it wanted to, get some tax reforms and tax cuts. And so they came to a deal. It was kind of a roundabout way that it happened. They bypassed the Rules Committee, which means they have to get 2/3 vote in Congress in order for it to pass. They were able to do that. All of the Freedom Caucus and pretty much all my friends in Congress did not vote for it. There were 70 nays. Obviously and interestingly, it was a mix on both sides. And so, of course, Dan Newhouse did vote for it. And essentially, the crux of the bill is that the people who don't pay any taxes will still be eligible to get a refund to the tune of thousands of dollars. And that is socialism. And if you look at Thomas Massey and Matt Gaetz' speech on the House floor yesterday, they define it and explain it really well. And unfortunately, Dan Newhouse voted for that, and that's disappointing because it's just, in my view, and I'll share a link to his voting record in the description below when we post this. it's just more of the same, and it just doesn't fit our values. He's welcome to come home and be our neighbor, but he's lost our trust, and votes like this continue to dissolve our ability to support him or trust him to be there for us on the important issues, because he keeps falling down on these. So that's disappointing. Another thing I want to bring up is on January 4th, we had the, what do we call it? It wasn't a debate, it was a forum where we got to answer questions. And one of the questions, so this is January 4th, one of the questions had to do with the dams. And when Dan Newhouse answered the question, he didn't give an answer. And I followed him, and I gave my answer, and I was very clear on what I would do. And I essentially said that I would protect our critical energy producing infrastructure, including transmission, with an act that is similar to the Endangered Species Act. And 20 days later, Dan Newhouse's office produced a bill called the Dam Act, and it basically does that. And now the bill's not going anywhere, just like if you watch the video I did on the postcards that he sends out. That video's on my channel as well. It's all, here's the postcard right here. But it's all hogwash. Like all these bills that you guys probably got this postcard in the mail, but all these bills on the back of here, if you look these up, it's all just pomp and circumstance. They're not bills. Some of them don't even have co-sponsors. This Dam Act doesn't have any sponsors or co-sponsors. It's never going to make it out of committee if it even makes it to committee. And that's the same thing with all of these that he's listed on here, that it's just marketing, and it's disappointing. And I did a video about that. So for those of you who don't like conflict, like I said at the beginning, I'm sorry, but we have to understand what's going on. We have to go inside, seek the Holy Spirit, and be like, what is truth? Because today, with all the so-called misinformation that is actually true, and conspiracy theories that actually happened, and AI and deep fakes, it's like we have to have the Holy Spirit inside of us to be able to understand truth, and then we have to be able to share it. And that's all I'm doing. I'm not trying to defame Dan Newhouse's character. I'm just telling you what he's done. And I try to do it in as light and fruitful a way as possible. So let me talk about one other thing before I wrap up. I was intending for this video to be very short. I want to tell you, I just want to take you into something. I have essentially 5 priorities that I want to push. But I was thinking about it this week, and I realized that my reasons for these are beyond the obvious. And I think a lot of people ask me, why are you doing this? I think the common answer we get from a lot of people who run for office is they feel like this is what God's called them to do. I fully agree. I would say that I fully believe this is what God's called me to do, and I think that He's taken me through and is taking me through things in my life that put me in a position to be a better leader, to be more compassionate, and to be able to be creative with solutions, and smart and wise and discerning, and all those kinds of things that we need in good leaders. But with that, I'm also going to tell you that I'm doing it out of fear. And I just want to say it. And I wanted to say this with you last night. I'm afraid. There are some things that are going on in this country that are scary. And I want to say that it's okay to talk about being fearful. I think I have avoided it because I feel like as it's a sign of weakness. But it's the truth. And I'm not going to go into the whole side of if we really trusted God. If I really trusted God, I wouldn't have any fear. That is absolutely true. But the truth is, I don't totally trust God. And my fear is evidence of that. And so I'm afraid. My number one priority is election integrity. Why am I afraid of that? Or why does that cause me fear? Well, I fear that it's going to affect our country, and it could be the demise of our country. If we have a population who doesn't actually have a secure vote, then we don't have a country. We have a banana republic by definition. And we end up being manipulated by people with power and money and influence. And that's not good. And so that's why it's my number one priority. I know that border security is a big deal right now, and it's one that's incredibly important to me, especially given what we're seeing. And I've been preaching that for years. essentially ever since even before Trump was in office, it was a big issue, but certainly when Biden was put into office, and we saw this just massive spike of people coming across the border. But election integrity is more important to me because, if we don't have a secure vote and know that our vote counts and is actually being handled in a method of integrity, then we have some big problems. Border security is my next one, and because it's a physical threat, the primary responsibility, as you've probably heard me say before, of the federal government is to protect us. And the federal government's role is primarily to protect our exterior borders, our international borders. The states have some responsibilities to protect us internally, as does the federal government. But that border is the primary, it's not just the responsibility of the federal government, it is the primary responsibility. Before they do anything else, they must protect that border. And I feel like that shouldn't be subject to the policy decisions or options of the executive branch. I think it should be upheld. We have all these different policies that happen within the executive branch that affect what happens at the border. We saw it with both of Obama's terms. Coming in, the borders were open. We saw them be closed under Trump, and some controls put on it, some walls built, some protections for us, but then completely just busted through the seams. And I said this years ago, that we were going to have 500,000 people coming across the border every single month, and here we are. If not there, we're very close. Number 3 on my list is safety and security, period. And let me just go back to why I want to go through this list this time, is because I want to tell you about fear. Border security is fearful to me, and I'm afraid because I see crimes walking across the border. I see those murders, I see the robberies and the rapes and all of the different things that are happening, the drunk drivers and stuff that would not happen. Does that stuff happen to us internally? Absolutely, but it would not happen by an illegal alien if they were not allowed in the country. And so that, I'm afraid of that. I remember vividly in the back of my mind, it was quite a few years ago, there was a gal, pretty young woman, I don't know if she was a mom or not, but she's walking on the wharf in San Francisco, a place I've been many times. Last time I was there, it was so disgusting, it was terrible, so I'll probably never go back again. But this gal was shot by, I think it was a stray bullet from an illegal, and she died that day. And those are the things that I'm afraid of, with regards to border security. The integrity of our country, what's to stop an October 7th from not happening in America when we've got hundreds of thousands of Hamas members and supporters right here in our country? So I have some fear with regards to border security. Safety and security is the next one. It's a big deal. Comes all the way back around to our police and everything, and just our own personal security. I mean, I carry a gun. I used to carry a gun primarily because I wanted to help the police, because I felt like the police they had so many restrictions on them and they could be overrun by people. And it's not that I wanted to go out and shoot someone, but if you have a gun, you're going to be in a lot better position to protect yourself than if you don't. And so, safety and security is huge. Faith, family, and our kids. We see an immense amount of threat on our faith and our ability to meet. Hebrews 10 is very clear about not giving up meeting together. Our family structure, the Judeo-Christian family values and structure that God has established. Marriage, the structure of marriage that is very clear and needs to be protected. I'm not saying that people can't freely go and have different types of relationships, but those are not marriage. Marriage is well defined, and they can just call that something else, whatever they want, but they need to come up with their own deal. And then our kids. Obviously our kids. I'm afraid for our kids. Seeing these things that are happening, I don't know how you can describe any of this stuff that's going on to our kids any other way than just pure evil. And yeah, I'm afraid I hurt for kids when I think about them going through these mutilation surgeries and taking these pills that are trying to you can't change their gender. It's just not possible. It's determined by God at conception, and it's just not. It's such a waste of time, and it really, I'm fearful of that because of the lives that we're stealing and we're allowing to be stolen. If there was no other reason why we should stand up and fight for our country, it's the protection of our kids. Big deal. The last one, which is really important, but obviously not as important as the other ones, is the economy, which is driven a lot by energy. I remember when the economy used to be the most important thing in America. It's amazing that it's now 5th on the list, but it just tells you what the seriousness of the things that we're facing. Economically, it's fearful. I mean, I sold my company. I've been living without income for 3 years, doing a lot to fund my work in politics and try to keep my life afloat and pay my own bills, and watching, Joe Biden close down the Keystone Pipeline and the Atlantic Coast Pipeline, which is a natural gas pipeline that also got shut down, and stopping the drilling and stopping the energy production here and using only a portion of our capacity on the Alaska pipeline. All of these things have driven up our costs. There's obviously other factors, the fact that we've spent so much money and pumped so much money into the economy. We have money up here and we have product here, and the product is starting to come up and the money's coming down a little bit, but that's why we have inflation. And unfortunately now this long-term sustained inflation has now got us to a point where we have cost of living increase. It's no longer inflation. It's not going to go back down. Many, like for example, big labor has already adjusted their labor. They're throwing out contracts, or they're signing contracts to make sure that their people are paid on the new economy. Well, I made any money I have, I made it on the old economy, not the new economy. And so, I have a lot of fears about our economy and where we're at and our ability to survive. And as I get older, I'm completely distraught about my property taxes. Like, how am I going to be able to afford property taxes when I as I age? It's just ridiculous, and we shouldn't be faced for that. Working our entire lives to be able to have our own property, only to have it taxed away from us or force us to go and live in a different environment because we can't afford the environment that we've worked our whole life for. So I just want to say that I'm not perfect. I do wish that I could trust God more, and this last couple weeks has really pushed me in this direction of like really seeking God. I'm like, why do I not trust you more, and why am I allowing this fear to drive me? But it also made me realize, like, I'm not alone. I know that every single one of you is facing fears in different categories, and maybe they don't line up with mine exactly, but I think it's okay to feel those, but it's also okay to question them and ask, okay, Lord, where can I go with this fear? Do you want me to use it, or do you want me to just hand this situation over to you? There's nothing I can do about it. And so I would just encourage you with that. And I got an email from, not directly, this was one of General Michael Flynn's emails that he sends out, but he is great, by the way. Fully support him, and he did endorse me in the last cycle, and we're working on renewing that. Hope that we can make some announcements about that soon. But this was how he closed the letter. I'm just going to read it to you. He said, "Lastly, if we don't focus right here at home, America first, we could lose everything. So much is at stake, and we're not even allowed to close the front door to our home." And he's talking about the border, I believe. And he says, "I believe in God. I believe in the power of prayer. I believe that we have lost sight of the importance of God in America. To reclaim our republic as a Judeo-Christian nation built on a set of moral principles and values, we need to be fearless, and we better get our act together very quickly. God bless America." And that's from General Michael Flynn. That's just a closing statement in a email that he sent out. So anyway, we're also going to send out the results from the endorsement vote last night. I want to say from the bottom of my heart, I very much appreciate everyone that supported me. My understanding is that we ended up around 60%. I have not gotten the official numbers yet, but I think that's pretty remarkable, and that's something to celebrate. The bylaws, I don't know if it's bylaws or policies, say that we need to get 2/3, so that's 66.6 or whatever, 67%. So we didn't achieve that, but I mean, this is what we all asked for last cycle. We were like, man, there's too many candidates. People need to get out of the way. Now we're here, and I'm clearly, in this fight for real, and can have the ability to beat Newhouse. So I guess my encouragement to those of you who don't support me is, you know what, this is politics. If the majority supports a candidate, then you get behind them and you support them and you do the best you can. You get the best you can get in this situation, and I feel like that's where we're at. And next month is March, and then we're doing our county caucus, and then the following month is April. We're going to be at the state convention. I mean, this thing just rolls over itself really quick. Right now we're about 6 months from ballots hitting our boxes for the primary, and there's just no time to waste. So thank you for those of you who are supporting my campaign. Please, those of you who haven't, please go online and set up even just a simple $10 or $5 or $20 a month or whatever you can afford to support my campaign. I very much appreciate it. I can't do this alone, and I consider you family. And it's an honor to serve with you and alongside you, and that will never stop. So thank you, and God bless you.